everybody, and welcome to Level 2 Social Studies. Now, if you were in class for the first day, then some of what I'm saying today is going to be repeated. It's going to be stuff you've already heard. But if you're like me, you don't always absorb everything you hear on the first day of a class. And so I've got this video here either for those who missed the intro class or for those who were like, I was so overwhelmed, didn't really take on board. Now that I'm starting the work, I want to know what this course is all about. So all of you are registered for either Socials 2201 or Socials 2202. And you may wonder, first of all, what's the difference between the two courses? There's no difference in content. We're going to be covering the exact same stuff. The only difference is 2201 is the academic course. It's going to lead into those who are taking Level 3 Socials with the expectation of doing a public exam and going on probably to university. Socials 2202 is the general level course. You'll probably also do Level 3 Socials next semester, but you won't be looking at writing a public exam, and you're probably going for overall a general graduation. In practical terms, like I said, there's no difference to the material that's covered. The only real difference is that if you are in 2201, your textbook is thicker because you're expected to do more reading, and your assignments will be similar to the 2202 assignments, but will involve basically more writing. You'll be expected to write longer, kind of more reflective pieces, and probably some more essay type writing. But the actual material we cover is pretty much the same. And the actual material we cover is sort of the history of everything, from cavemen to almost up to the world we're living in today. So it is a history course, but it's a history course with a very specific focus. Because obviously, if we're looking at everything from the cavemen to today, we can't cover everything that's happened in millions of years of human history. We're going to be picking out some highlights along the way. And this intro video is just to kind of get you with a sense of what we're going to be covering and where we're going to be starting. So with this idea that we're looking at all of human history, but we're going to focus on a few key things along the way, essentially everything we study, every time period of history that we look at, every story we learn about, we're going to be focusing on 4 key themes that are going to come up over and over again throughout this course. And in every unit of the course, we're going to be looking at the time period we're studying through the lens of these 4 themes. And these are the 4 themes. First off, innovation. We're going to be talking about what are the ideas, the inventions, the new discoveries that people came up with in this time period that made a difference, that changed the way people lived. Government. We're going to be talking about who makes the decisions for a group of people. How are decisions made? Is there one person at the top? Is it something everyone does together? And of course, that's been different at different periods throughout human history. Economics. Now you might think, oh, I don't understand anything about economics. I don't know what the stock market is. Well, we may touch on some of that, and we're going to talk about money and trade. With economics, you want to think at the most basic level, what we're asking about is how did people at this time in history get their needs and their wants met? How did they get what they needed to survive, and how did they get just the other stuff that they happen to want? And finally, conflict. What happens when different groups of people within a society or different societies come into conflict with each other? Sometimes that means wars, and we certainly will look at war throughout history, but it might mean other kinds of conflict too. So like I said, we're going to be looking at a really vast sweep of human history, starting in Unit 1, right back in Paleolithic, Neolithic times with the cavemen. But in every unit we look at, we're going to be asking, what was happening with innovation in this time period? What inventions and discoveries were important? What was the government? How were people making decisions as a group and deciding what they were going to do? What were the economics of this situation? What were people's needs and wants, and how are they getting them met? And what kinds of conflicts arose, and how did people settle them? So if you think about those 4 themes and kind of keep them in mind, we're going to be coming back to them throughout every unit. That's going to kind of guide the whole course. Another thing that's important to remember in this course is that we will be using the textbook a lot, both the 2201 textbook and the 2202, whichever course you're in. Your textbook is going to be a really important resource. However, I don't teach the material in the same order that the textbook has it laid out. Basically, your textbook has it laid out so the 4 themes are discussed separately throughout history. I think history is more interesting and we grasp it better if we look at it as a timeline from beginning to end. So the way I organize it, we look at different time periods, and we examine each of these 4 themes in each of the time periods. So what that means in practical terms is that for every unit, as you'll notice if you look at the unit documents I've got posted for Unit 1, for example, you'll be jumping around to different sections of the book, and I'll say, for Unit 1, I want you to read, this part from Chapter 1, this from Chapter 4, this from Chapter whatever. The page numbers and sections you need to read will all be in there. In the end, we will have covered pretty much everything in your textbook. We just won't cover it in the same order because, as I discovered last year when this course was new, it works a little better, for me anyway as a teacher, and hopefully for you as students, if we look at all of history happening chronologically and we keep asking ourselves, where do these 4 themes fit in every time period? So that's the structure and the framework of the course. We're going to begin talking about really ancient, what we call prehistoric times, and the next video is going to discuss that a bit.